What's up, guys? Welcome back to the That's Sowdev podcast. My name is Dev. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I appreciate you. Now, y'all, we got some tea to get into. Y'all already know because you clicked on this. Okay? Now, before we get into the tea, make sure you go ahead and follow me at That's Sowdev on Twitter, Instagram, and literally everywhere else. Okay? Especially YouTube. We kind of popping over here. So, we have some Fifth Harmony tea. That's right. Welcome to Keeping Up with Fifth Harmony on the That's Sowdev podcast. We're going to have several seasons of this. Now, this isn't going to be a podcast where it's a podcast that goes on throughout the entire year or whatever, okay? This is the intro episode, so we want to establish things. We want to establish the schedule and everything surrounding that. So this is going to be bi-weekly. You will be listening to this on November 1st. Okay? That means the second episode will come 2 weeks after the first. So every 2 weeks, there will be an episode. But there will only be 8 to 10 episodes per season. Okay? So that means if the season is starting November 1st, it's probably going to end by the end of January. Okay? And then we'll take our break, and then we'll come back probably around 7/27 season for season 2, maybe. That's what I'm thinking. So we'll see how that goes, but for right now, we're focused on the first season and planning that out. We're going to be going along the journey of Fifth Harmony, and we're not going to get to a lot of things immediately. We're not. This podcast is going to take its time discussing each stop, and we are going to start at X Factor with Miami. We have to. This podcast is going to be a journey. So we'll see how this journey unfolds. I appreciate you for coming along with me. Now, I put a poll on Twitter and I said, okay, y'all, we want to do weekly or bi-weekly? I did not expect anybody to vote for weekly. Not a single soul. But most did. So I was like, nah. Bi-weekly just seems more ideal. Bi-weekly. And we'll say it's a limited time. So I'm going to be alternating kind of these segments on my podcast where Jersey Shore is on right now. Jersey Shore is about to go off for the season in a couple episodes. So while this gets established, Jersey Shore is on the back end. By the time this is on the back end, Jersey Shore will be back. I'm going to alternate segments. So each segment has its own season within my general seasons of this podcast. So, we're laying out all the groundwork right now, child. Y'all better be listening up. Okay? So, I'm very excited about this podcast because I don't want to miss anything. I'm probably going to have, if it's 8 episodes, I may have 2 episodes where I have Harmonizers come on and we discuss, we chat, or whatever. You know what I mean? But for the most part, I do want to make sure that we just discuss a lot of the details that I feel do get left out when it comes to Fifth Harmony. I don't see anybody doing any sort of podcast or anything about Fifth Harmony or what they went through. A lot of people just don't seem to care enough about their experience to really talk about what they went through. And I do feel that, it is important to get their story and bring attention to it and just keep talking about it, because there are several artists who deal with that every day but don't have the platform for it to be brought to the forefront. So I'm very excited to, just embark on that journey. This is going to be as structured as a bitch with ADHD can, do. But we're going to see. So I think that with X Factor, there's a lot for us to cover because we do have We have Fetus Fifth Harmony in 2012, 2013. We have 2014 through half of 2015, where it's another era of Fifth Harmony. In the back end of 2015 to 2016, a different Fifth Harmony. Then we have 2017 to 2018. And then we have After. And then we have Individual Girls. So this podcast is literally going to be keeping up with Fifth Harmony, not only past, but also present. And you could probably say, well, Fifth Harmony don't exist, but, interesting. Fifth Harmony don't exist, but Fifth Harmony seems to be topic of conversation every other day, which is funny. Y'all don't find it funny how people who don't exist or people who are over, they are constantly the topic of conversation. Just like, honestly, just as much as I see Normani talked about, I see Fifth Harmony talked about. I see a viral tweet every other day. I see somebody being shady every other day. Like, they don't have to be your point. Like, think about it. Think about it. They do not have to be your point of reference. But they are. So that tells me the relevancy. You can say whatever you want to. You walk up inside a place they're playing Work From Home, you know it. Worth It, you know it. Come on now. Stop. So we got a lot to get into. This is going to be the first episode. Okay? Again, this is just the intro. Laying out the groundwork for going forward. If you want to hear certain things that I discuss on this podcast, use the hashtag #ThatSowDev and I will see it. Okay? Nobody at the moment probably using it, so trust me, I will be able to see it. But definitely, if you want to see me talk about a specific area of Fifth Harmony, go ahead and do that. Because before I even record an episode, everything is going to be planned out on what each episode is going to be about. And then I'm going to do a schedule of at least 3 episodes ahead of time so people know what those topics are going to be about. So I'm really excited about that. We are going to create a structure. I want to create a regular algorithm of, this Fifth Harmony podcast happening. Because starting something new like this, it isn't always going to be seen. So you want to familiarize yourself with the algorithm. So I think I already kind of do a good job of that by speaking about Fifth Harmony every 0.5 seconds. But that's besides the point. I think that this podcast is going to do a lot. I think it's going to bring Harmonizers there's just this yearn for a Harmonizer community still that doesn't exist but wants to, if that makes sense. There's a lot of people who act like they hate the group of Fifth Harmony, but then they get up and move whenever something happens. So it's like, sure, I'm sure you probably do have a love-hate relationship. There's a lot of people who probably do. But at the end of the day, it's not really because of them. It's not. We know at the end of the day, regardless, 4 or 5, at the end of the day, it was a higher power at the root of it all. Okay? And again, do not come on the first 2 episodes thinking that we're going to talk about Camila. Okay? I mean, look, here's what I'll say. We will talk about Camila. Camila is part of Fifth Harmony. So she will be discussed as we go through the journey in which she's a part of, until she isn't. And that's how that's going to go. We are going to address situations as they happened along the timeline. We can start with my What Happened to Fifth Harmony YouTube episode if you want to, because we're essentially going to piggyback off of that. Go into a bit more detail about each instance. And I feel like this is just the perfect place to do that. No, seriously, who is doing a Fifth Harmony podcast? Who? Be so serious. So, while this episode right here may be dry as hell because it's the intro, y'all, and I'm also going to attach this episode with a second part as well. So don't worry. While we're laying out the groundwork, we will get into some other stuff with the following episode that will be attached to this episode. So essentially the episode's going to be called Keeping Up with Fifth Harmony. It's going to be a little, boom, little bar right there in the middle. And it's going to be intro/Miami. So we're going to start in the next episode with the girls at their X Factor audition with, all things considered. Because before they were a group, they did try out individually. So we'll touch base on that. And we're going to do whatever the hell we want to be honest with y'all. Because I feel like we have a lot to talk about with Fifth Harmony. Fifth Harmony lived a lot of life in 5 years alone. They did way more than that, but if you want to just talk about 5 years alone, there's a lot to talk about. So, all right, y'all. That's it for now. This is just the intro. There's 2 parts to this podcast, don't worry. All right, y'all. But for now, I'm hopping off here. Until the next part, see y'all in like 5 seconds. Peace. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the That's So Dev podcast. My name is Dev. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I appreciate you. Now, y'all know this is part 2. We're getting into the tea. Now, before we get into the tea, make sure you go ahead and follow me on That's So Dev on Twitter, Instagram, literally wherever. Okay, so here we are. X Factor in Miami. Girl, look, let me tell you something. Those girls trying out individually are not the same girls that we saw in Fifth Harmony. And that's the first thing that I want to say, because there's so much, I'm trying to respectfully say that they just had so much more life to them. And I guess that's not a disrespectful thing to say, because the disrespectful part was the life being sucked out of them by the industry. But when I go and I look back at Dinah Jane's performance, I see less of that Dinah Jane in Fifth Harmony. I look at Normani trying out with that Aretha Franklin, that growl, ooh, you know what I mean? And that exploration of that lower rich, like it's chef kiss, listening to Lauren. And I feel like probably Lauren lost a lot of range, to be honest. I think she lost a lot of range because of the Fifth Harmony journey. With Allie, I feel like, to be honest, I think that Allie got better. I feel like Allie is the only person that I feel like, and look, they all obviously improved from X Factor, but I feel like anybody who's been the most consistent at, going up probably was Allie. I don't look at Allie from X Factor and look at her in Fifth Harmony and not think that she has moved in her journey, but each other individual girl, I feel like, aside from Camila, because can we be honest, she had her own experience. She had a shared one and her own in one, which is, anyway. But it's just that looking at Normani, Lauren, and Dinah, it's like, wow, they really took something from you. They took a confidence level. And that really sucks, because when you follow the journey, you get to see that light kind of go out. But I did appreciate seeing a lot of the girls beforehand. I think the only people that I really saw beforehand was Lauren and Normani. I specifically remember seeing Normani flipping her hair with that boy in Duels. I will never forget it. It was like the moment I knew that a star was born. I remember her from her audition specifically. But, when you watch a lot of those things You never really know what's going to happen. So it wasn't until duels. And the crazy thing about it is that I didn't watch X Factor, really. It was my mom, because we grew up watching American Idol. And so Simon was on there and blah, 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 blah. And she was like, girl, it's in the US. Pay attention. So I paid attention for a bit. And next thing I knew, I started studying Fifth Harmony by the time I was in high school as a senior. So it was like, it was really weird. It's really weird looking back at it now, because before the group even got formed, there was just no way that I could have known that a lot of these people that I looked at individually were going to be in the same unit. But the way that it happened was just so magical. It was so magical, and it did feel like all the pieces fit. I felt like they complemented each other very well. And I do believe that, because they brought this up a lot of the way when Fifth Harmony was on X Factor, they kept bringing up the fact that Fifth Harmony didn't feel like a group. And I think the thing about Fifth Harmony is that they had their own style and they shifted the spectrum. The thing about girl groups, typically, girl groups, they blend as one, right? That's just always what they do, while one person sticks out. But what got people the most about Fifth Harmony was that individually they carried their own. But what also got people on the industry side negatively, especially L.A. Reid, which I think he need to mind his business all the time, but it's that he sees them not doing what a girl group is known for, and he sees that as them being incapable of executing being a girl group. But the difference, again, with Fifth Harmony is that Fifth Harmony is a group that stands out individually, but also comes together as a group. Fifth Harmony is really the only group that you will really see doing choreography, where they're each doing their own style of choreography, but the same choreography. And Fifth Harmony really lived and breathed that individuality, but also a group. And I think that that was important along the way, especially with their experience. And I think you really do get to see that on X Factor, because, I mean, I don't imagine that you're just gonna put all these girls together and they magically are just gonna have a blend. Did you put One Direction together and expect them to just have a blend? Oh, because they didn't have to have a blend. Because boy bands can't come together and be individuals and not be synchronized and all of that stuff, and it's not a big deal. But girls have to be the whole package and everything. So I think instantly they probably felt that pressure. But, and here's what I will definitely say. I think that the journey of Fifth Harmony being on that X Factor stage was honestly probably the best thing for them. Because going from X Factor, we all know what they had to do. They had to be in malls, in a lot of experiences that were kind of similar to the X Factor setting. And I think what that did was put them in a position, because it's already a fan voted show. So they're already starting off with a batch of fans, enough to get this group through to the finals and have the judges shocked. So it really put them in a position to grow a built-in fan base along the way. And the industry is at a time where these built-in fan bases are really starting to pop up. I mean, they're coming from, Justin Bieber, they're coming from Miley Cyrus and all of that stuff. And Fifth Harmony is what? 2012? So 2012 being formed, that's before Miley Cyrus even put out bangers. Like, be for real. And that's why I say all the time that Fifth Harmony really was formed in a weird time. Because along their journey, you get to see them be in the digital era, but you also get to see them shift into the streaming era as well. So they really did survive 2 eras. Well, look at it. All they did was increasingly get better. So I think that the Fifth Harmony journey is quite interesting to always talk about. And I find it interesting to talk about because Fifth Harmony is one of those groups where they could be a shining example for the industry to be better and for fans to be better. But nobody pays attention to that shit. Nobody cares. And that's the crazy part, because people talk about Fifth Harmony every other day in their music and blah, 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 blah. But nobody will talk about what those girls went through. And a lot of it did begin in X Factor, because once they stepped on X Factor, that's when they became a machine. Well, it's when they have people backstage doing their hair, doing interviews, and have people working around them. That's when that began. And they're what? How old are they again? I want to say, what was it, 215? Was it 214, 215, and then 18? It definitely was around those ages. I may not be exact with it. My brain is on fog today, but it is what it is. So, these girls are so young, still so impressionable with taking in everything that, they're seeing. They're seeing all the lights and Hollywood and everything for the first time. Like, this is really more than what they've had before. So it almost puts you in a position to where, well, this is going to lead me to where I want to go. So then you begin to make sacrifices to get where you want to go. And unfortunately, sometimes those sacrifices are sacrifices that are kind of personal, that are, specifically to you. That's how you end up getting moments where, okay, somebody's not on a song. You're too soulful. They just told you to take out the soul. You're like, but soul is who I am. So if I take out the soul, I'm taking out me. So it makes them sacrifice parts of themselves to fit into this mold, and then they got to figure out later how to get out of that mold and to get back into their own shape. And this is something that has started since 2012. Be real. Because the second that they hit those main stages, they got to have presentation on. They are behind those cameras. These are high pressure situations. Nonetheless, look how they handle it, which is crazy. Love that for them. I think all things considered, they handle that very, very well. I think what helped was the fact that it did feel like the puzzle pieces fit. So they got each other through a lot of the things that they went through. They all had a genuine friendship. I believe Camila and Lauren met first, and then Dinah and Normani met. So it was just kind of weird how they kind of met each other prior and then became a group together. That was just a small world. You know what I mean? It was meant to happen. Fifth Harmony served a purpose. I think that Fifth Harmony broke the narratives of girl groups. Absolutely. I'm not even gonna lie. I think they broke the narrative of a girl group, like what you expect a girl group to be. Fifth Harmony said, fuck it. They genuinely said, fuck it. And I think that it created a path for other girl groups along the way. Even thinking about Boys World, I think it really did create a path. And people don't believe that. But people also have to remember, again, One Direction, Little Mix, Fifth Harmony, they came from a TV show that gave them a platform going forward. So a lot of these girl groups today, the only platform they have is social media. So Fifth Harmony already had that built-in fan base. So they utilized their time on a TV show and they utilized their time on social media during that time to really create that. And I just don't feel like people invest in fan bases like that anymore. I think that's the best thing that they did. They're on creating their individual Twitters, creating a group Twitter so that way they can live tweet along the way. And, they did everything that they needed to do. And it really does make you also think about the fact that these award shows are not always going to simply be about talent, quote unquote. It doesn't matter if you are the best singer. Honestly, it matters who connects to you the most. That's why I feel like when people bring up, well, here, you got Selena Gomez and then somebody else who's literally like this super powerhouse singer. And it's kind of like, okay, they're a fantastic singer, but people aren't connecting to them. They're connecting to this girl, and you really kind of can't fault people for that. So that's why I was like, even, Britney's face, they're thinking that Fifth Harmony's not up to par because from an industry standpoint, they're looking at these girls as though they don't fit a puzzle piece instead of looking at it as these girls are different, So it always shocked them that they kept going forward. They did what they needed to do. Not only did they have the talent and everything that they, needed down the checklist, but they also, again, they had that fan base. So while they integrated their fans from social media in the show, it allowed them to have people to call and vote for them on the masses and get them to a final show. There are more things surrounding it than just your talent. So those girls worked down. I mean, missing funerals to make things happen. Like, whoa. X Factor was really the start of a very long journey. And trust me, with this podcast, we have a very long journey to go through. But we're definitely starting at the beginning, and we're really going to focus on a lot of these things. Because after X Factor, things really do get chaotic almost instantly. Because after X Factor, it really did take them some time. They had to, blah, 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 blah. Simon got them signed to... I can't, it was Psycho, whatever. I don't mean, if it's Psycho, that makes sense because I do think that label's a bit psycho, just like Epic Records, and Sony, but it's fine. Anyway, Devils, but still, it's just, it's like me looking at Normani signing with S10, but at least they had good intentions. It's almost like Simon didn't give a fuck at the time, but. And here's the thing recently that came up. Ali actually said that Simon helped them get the brand name back to them. So, which means he's recently done some work. After all he's done, that's the least he could have done because Ali is the person who got them the rights to the brand to begin with Dina LaPoe. We're going to get to all of that stuff much, 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 much later. We're not there yet, but it's just the fact that, watching Simon believe in these girls as much as he seemed to on the show, as opposed to how he supported them after. You can't make it happen for people. You can't. They got to do their own thing, right? But I don't feel like he did enough for those girls. I don't. And I'm sure they could probably agree, and I'm sure you would probably agree. I feel like he really left them for dead after that show for the most part, but it is what it is, At least they got signed to a record label and didn't waste any time and immediately got to get their careers going off at what cost, but also at the same time, think about this industry, how would it have happened? Anyway. But I think that it's definitely something to appreciate. And that's the thing. That's the thing about it. And I'm actually going to use that example as for what I'm going to say. Like, Fifth Harmony is such a love-hate relationship and bittersweet with their experience. It's like, okay, without this, a lot of the shit wouldn't have happened. So, like, you got to be grateful for a lot of the shit. Like Simon getting them to Epic, you gotta be grateful for that. It didn't waste time, and it really helped build their career. And at the same time, look what that label did to them. And, you know, when you go on these TV shows, you really got to pay attention, because a lot of the contracts that they have coming from these TV shows, bitch, girl, it literally just be trapping them. I've had several times, my mom was like, you want to go try out for this show, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I don't. I, for one, have no desire for my music to be something that is going to be pushed in the public eye. But also at the same time, even if I did, the last thing I would want to do is go in a singing competition to be put inside a contract that's essentially going to take my free will away. So I'm just saying, bitches already doing what they gotta do independent and eating ramen noodles, because we all know Fifth Harmony was still eating ramen noodles down years into their career. So I really don't want to hear it at this point. But, you know, it is what it is, bitch. I think that there is a lot of journey of Fifth Harmony left ahead of us, obviously. We have a lot to talk about. This is only the beginning. But I do believe that this era of X Factor is so important going forward. Because, again, it shows you really just how much they took away from them girls. The light, the soul, the technique, you know? Being overexposed, straining their voices, like, they didn't have rest. Nothing. Just work. As young teenagers without their parents in LA. That's crazy. And you're still young. You're still impressionable. So, y'all, it's crazy. Because when you sit here and you think about it and you look back, you see a lot of things extremely different now that you've had time away from Fifth Harmony. I tell people all the time, look at Normani at her X Factor audition, and then look at Normani on the 727 tour. Take all the girls, actually, and look at them. Look at Lauren singing at her audition, and look at Lauren on the 727 tour breaking down during No Way. Or even pay attention to the techniques of their voices. Lauren's upper range is not really being touched like that. Look at X Factor, though. It's in the details. You have to pay attention. And that's why I want to make sure on this podcast we really do discuss those details. Because it's really left out. Because people do want to talk. They're like, we want y'all to do a tell-all book. We want y'all to tell the tea and all this stuff. A lot of the tea is inside of the experiences that we've got to follow along the journey. And the journey is documented down. Well, documented down from X Factor going forward. Those girls have been behind a camera 24/7. Awesome as TV. There hasn't been a time in their lives during Fifth Harmony that they weren't behind a camera. They were overexposed. So the fact that they just sitting away right now and doing that thing, you know what I mean? They are living lives. They're going to a wedding or whatever kind of family function that they want to, you know, without having to miss it to go to said concert. So, y'all, this is just the beginning. We got so much to get into. We wrapping up this first episode now, okay? This is part B. We already got one. I'm not going to talk your ear off too much in this first episode. But the rest of the episodes, prepare for us to actually have conversations, right? We're really just laying down the footing right now for the rest of this podcast, the rest of the podcast segment, and the rest of this podcast season. So I definitely want to hear back from you guys. Again, make sure you use the hashtag #ThatSowDev on Twitter, and I will see it, because there's going to be a lot for us to talk about and to discuss. Okay? Make sure you go ahead and follow me on all social media platforms. #ThatSowDev, Twitter, Instagram, and literally everywhere else. Snapchat, girl, YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe. Okay? Make sure you drink some water, eat some good food, stream Fifth Harmony today. It's all self-care, bitch. Okay? I'm hopping off here. I appreciate you for listening. This is the first episode of Keeping Up with Fifth Harmony on the That's Sowdev podcast. Until the next one, y'all. Peace. You know, man.